Hello friends, I Professor Bhavik Kumar M. Kataria welcomes you into the video series of operating system. We are discussing unit number 1 introduction. In our earlier session we have discussed goals and structure of operating system. So guys, if you are still remain to watch that video of goals and structure of operating system, so please click on I button and watch that video first and come back here to understand today's session of basic functions and interaction of operating system. So let's start. Interaction of operating system. Operating system mostly interacting as a main two things. First, that is a resource allocator, and second one is a manager. So there are a lot of resources are available into the computer systems like process, memory, input output devices, files, and many more. So whenever user require any type of resource to use, so user will ask that resource to the operating system, and operating system will allow user to use that particular resources. Another thing, operating system is also working as a manager also. Look like, suppose any user is already allowed to use central processing unit. So after using few moments of central processing unit, if some another user will require the CPU, so there is need to allocate CPU to some another user also, or some another process also. So there is need to manage in efficient resource utilization. Like if someone use the CPU for long time and some processes are waiting for the very long time, so that is not fair utilization. So there is need to implement one proper management of all the resources. So second part of operating system, that is resource manager. One more thing we will understand, that is kernel of operating system. So kernel is interacting between the computer hardware and application softwares. Basically we can say that kernel is a heart of operating system because it is a main part of operating system. Basically system is working in dual mode. One is user mode and second one is kernel mode. So kernel facilitate the application software with the communication of computer hardware, because whenever user want to perform any task from the application software, so somewhere application software requires to use computer hardware. So whenever application software requires to use computer hardware, so kernel will produce availability of computer hardware to the application softwares. So that is the main concern of kernel of operating system. Whenever user is working with the operating system, so user mostly working into the user mode. Let's see here, user process executing. It means user is going to execute one process here. So executing every process, there is a need to generate one system call. So what is system call? We will understand system call in our next session. Basically, you have to keep in your mind whenever you want to perform any task, so you will give a command, like you want to perform addition, c is equal to a plus b. So you will write a variable a, b and c, and you will store the value of addition a plus b into the c, and you will make the summation of a and b. So to perform the any activity, there is need to write some line of code. Same thing is here. To perform any task, there is need to generate a system call, and through that particular system call, the functionalities will be available. So after generating a system call, through the system call, there is availability of kernel mode. It means operating system is working into the kernel mode, user is working into the user mode. So whenever user will generate any request, so operating system made a system call, and system call will execute that particular uh, request into the kernel mode. In terms of user mode, there is a mode bit was 1, but whenever system call will goes to the kernel mode, at that time mode bit is going to be set, mode bit is set to 0. And after executing that particular request, whenever a value or any request is returned to the system call, it means whatever the request of user is going to be fulfilled. So after returning into the user mode, again mode bit is going to be set as a 1. Get it? So it will work as a stopper, like whenever we will enter inside the room, so we will again close the door, and whenever we want to enter again we will open the door. So that's why we are using mode bit 1 and 0. So hope you are understanding how kernel is going to be communicate. If still you have any query in your mind during the journey of operating system, so without any type of hesitation you can ask your questions to me, or you can write your queries into the comment box. Next, we will understand the functions of operating system, or in another word we can say that services of operating system. So first main concern we will look about the memory. Operating system will work as a memory manager. So in terms of memory management, what operating system have to do, if you will compare the secondary memory and primary memory. So primary memory is very much smaller as compared to secondary memory. Suppose you are using 500 GB hard disk and 4 GB RAM. So whenever you want to execute any process, so whenever data is already stored into the 500 GB hard disk, so there is a very large size of memory. But whenever you want to execute that particular data, so there is need to bring that data into the primary memory. But primary memory is a limited memory. So there is a need to manage the space for your data which is going to be executed. So that's why there is a memory management is required. Second thing, process management. During the use of computer, user is executing more and more number of processes. So parallelly, more than one process is in execution. So there is need to manage the all of the processes, because all of the processes require central processing unit like input output device or any type of resources. So to arrangement of the requirement of process, there is need to require the process management, as well as which process will execute first, which process will execute next, which process will execute last, which important process required to execute immediately. This type of task is carried out during the process management. Then after input output management, like during the execution of any process, someone need to scan any data, or there is need to enter the runtime input. Get it? So whenever runtime input is required, so input devices is required like keyboard, mouse, or any type of like images are required to scan. So there is requirement of scanner. Same thing during the output. Monitor is required to print the output or to display the output, or whenever like someone is required to print any data into the hard copy, so printer is required. So during the execution of different processes, different input and output devices are required. So there is again need to manage this type of all input and output devices. That is the one function of operating system. Another thing, that is file management. You are storing your most of the data into the secondary memory. So different files are already stored into the secondary memory. So again there is need to organize this file into the efficient manner. Whenever data access is required again from the file, so there is need to access the data from that already earlier stored file. Some of the operations like insert data into the file, updating into the file, creating a new file, deleting a file. Same thing where file was updated at last date or last time. So there is need to keep this type of records into the file management. Then after security management, In today's time, in 21st century, security is playing a key role into the operating system. So after all, whenever operating system is doing memory management, process management, IO management or file management, during any type of work is going to be carried out. So there is need to manage security at everywhere. So that is again one main function of operating system. Hope you are understanding all of the functionalities of operating system. We are discussing major concern. There are a lot of services and function of operating system, but we are discussing main point, and we will discuss all of the functions in deep during our next units. Like we will learn entire memory management as a separate unit. We will learn process management as a separate unit. So all of the function we will learn as a separate unit. So at the time we will discuss in detail. In our next lecture we will discuss hardware architecture and system call.